want to bring in Pragya Bhushan also, who's an advocate as well. Pragya, this is probably not the first time that these cases have come to the fore. Doctors probably even in the past have all, probably not been paid, but because we were not seeing them right at the forefront, these cases went unnoticed or probably were delayed for a longer period of time. Today, within 2 weeks, you actually have the government saying that we will criminalize this. So do you think this will now set the right precedent so that in the future, when something like this happens, the doctors also will have enough to fall back on?
Right, Ridhima, this is a welcome step by Honorable Apex Court and as well as the government. But we'll have to see how practical this becomes once this comes into picture. Because once the directives are being sent by Home Ministry or the central government, then they will penalize the non-compliance of this directive under Disaster Management Act and of course under Section 188 of IPC for non-obedience of government officers. But we'll have to see if in that case also if these salaries are not being paid, who is going to be held responsible? Are the politicians who are sitting at the apex seats in those particular departments, are they going to be held responsible? Or again they'll be looking for some government officer or some junior officer who will be held responsible for non-payment of these fees and non-compliance of these directives, and the whole gimmick will be played in that particular case. So we'll have to be very, very vigilant that even after these directives are being given, are the politicians, the higher officials, the chief secretaries of the states, will they be held responsible? Because until and unless the top people, the top officers, the top politicians are not being held responsible under this criminal offense, nothing will happen.
Okay. Question that, they're not asking for any extra efforts being ramped up. Actually, they should be asking, saying that our family members should be tested because, we're working all in day. Our test results should probably be expedited. But all of these demands are not coming forward from these doctors. The basic demands which they're entitled to is still concerned. I want to go back to Pragya Bhushan. Pragya Bhushan, what Tulika was pointing out was essentially a timeline of how long it will still take for these salaries to be dispersed. Now, God forbid if this timeline is not adhered to, in 3 to 4 weeks, we still do not have any clarity of when the money actually will reach the accounts of these doctors as well as healthcare workers. Then what happens from there on? What are the options left with the association of these healthcare workers?
Right, Ridhima, because already Honorable Supreme Court has given a timeline of 4 weeks to central government for the compliance of these directives. So once the central government complies these directives and sends the directives to the state governments and the chief secretaries of the state governments, then of course it depends upon the state governments how fast they are going to comply with the directives. Because in this particular case of Dr. Sunil, that is under MCD. MCD will say that we have asked for funds from Delhi government. So they all have their excuses, and how that can be dealt with by the Honorable Court and how strictly that can be adhered to, then only, because in this particular directive also they have to specify specific timeline that in this particular time period you have to comply with the directives, otherwise the action will be taken against you. If it is an open-ended directive given by the central government, then of course all the state governments and the municipal councils will have their own pleas and they can play with the timelines.
Yeah, okay.